Conservancy. Okay. So we've already established that a lot of us are like kind of we know about Freedmenstown, but really we're all kind of reconnecting with the history here. I certainly am. I'm learning something new every day. As I was saying before, I've been a Houston resident for 15 years and worked downtown, or see the town, see my old office building literally right there for almost 8 years. And I discovered, that's a very colonial term.
Oh, that's funny.
Freedmenstown just 2 years ago, even though, as I say, I've just been in this area for so long. And that's, I think, what's so amazing about Houston, but also this particular neighborhood, Fourth Ward, is that Houston in itself and Fort Worth just has so many nooks and crannies to it. When you think of like our city, you think of like, now it's, high rises, huge like suburban subdivisions, but there's a lot of history here, beneath the giant, skyscrapers and great modern developments that we have. So, Freedmenstown, we are known as Houston's mother ward. Known as the mother ward, Freedmenstown stands as a testament to the resilient achievements of the settlers. It was established after June 19, 1865, or as we call it, Juneteenth, our newest federal holiday, and it was Houston's first African-American community. So what's special about Freedmenstown is post-emancipation and Juneteenth, formerly enslaved people left, particularly here in the greater Houston, Galveston area, left out of there and fanned across the country and established hundreds of different what we call freedom colonies. These were the first settlements that they would have set up on their own in different cities from, Oklahoma to Chicago to Atlanta, or even where I grew up in DC, all over. Houston Freedmenstown is the only one in the country that's still intact. It still has the original structures that those communities built. It is truly one of a kind. So by 1880, so after those first settlers came into what we now call Central Houston, post 1865. By 1880, it housed 95% of Houston's Black population, supporting the growing middle class and over 400 Black residents by the 1930s. So if you come look at this map here, you can see the historic footprint and boundaries of Freedmenstown, extending all the way from Allen Parkway to I-45 down to Taft and 7th Street. So much of what we consider downtown Houston, Allen Parkway here on the bayou, that was actually the historic boundaries of Freedmenstown. Now, through developments, other social, political changes, it had gotten smaller and smaller and smaller, as far as buying out that original footprint, forcing, changes through the community. And so what remains as far as the current Freedmenstown Historic Registry, this black border here through West Dallas, and I can share a bigger map another time. This is what we still have in assets intact, but the historic boundaries go so much farther. And so that's why you'll see, like, even when you drive up on places like Washington Boulevard, the Heights near my office, you'll see A&E churches, old brick buildings still there. And you're kind of wondering, how does it feel that you're kind of looking at the fire? That's because these were originally Freedmenstown assets. Even on, I would say, Studemont and Allen Parkway, there is a huge Ismaili museum and cultural center that's being built. That is right in the bounds of what's historic Freedmenstown. So a lot of great history all throughout Central Houston. Notable residents here in Freedmenstown, Reverend Jack Gates, the builder of Black Houston's first two-story home and founder of the Houston Academy, and David J. Scott, secretary to Booker T. Washington and the first Black reporter at the Houston Post. Before I go into the work of the Conservancy, what's notable about Freedmenstown, and as far as it being its mother ward, is that much of the development that happened through Freedmenstown and the residents, you see their imprints all over this picture. Houston's first park, Emancipation Park, was not Memorial Park, Buffalo Bayou, it was actually Emancipation Park, was settled by the Houston Freedmenstown Fourth Ward residents. So there's such an amazing symbiotic relationship between Fourth Ward and Third Ward. You know, a lot of this start here in Freedmen's Town. They eventually moved into to Third Ward, you know, and they have a lot of great, you know, cultural assets as well. But what's unique about this particular building is that we still have the intact buildings. So the Conservancy, so you're here at the Visitor Center. The purpose of the Freedmen's Town Conservancy is we are a historic preservation organization. And what historic preservation means is that we are looking to preserve, adapt, and maintain the existing structures. So preservation adaptation, a great example of that is this building here. So if you when you get a tour and look around, we have 3 original shotgun homes that were built. This is building 1, building 2, building 3. This is a great example of preservation adaptive reuse that took these homes, renovated them, and turned it into a visitor center. So this is like our main kind of gathering, learning space. You can meet here to do like walking tours and guide through that. Building 2 is an art exhibit. You know, so we kind of walk around there. And the 3rd building is also another time capsule gallery space. So that's the kind of work that the Conservancy does. So our mission is to tell the story of freedom by educating and engaging visitors through heritage tourism from around the world. A unique history of this, as we all know, Houston's largely until chapter of our global history in America's past. And what we're really trying to do, the big vision, is to achieve global recognition of historic Freedmen's Town as a heritage vision, okay? And redefine historic emancipation as a journey towards freedom. There are multiple locations within and near Freedmen's Town that have been designated as sites in the flagship UNESCO Routes of Enslaved Peoples project. And our larger goal is to make Freedmen's Town and the larger footprint of this community a UNESCO World Heritage Site. We're definitely going to get there. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of hand it over a little bit to our learning and engagement manager, Ms. Monet Bailey, because she could tell us a little bit just about the visitor center, the galleries, all the interesting things that are happening here. I can get involved in learning. So you kind of share a few words just about what you all have going on.
Okay. Hello, everyone. So my name is Monet Bailey. I officially took the role like maybe a few weeks ago as the learning manager. And so what's really nice here at Freedmen's Town is we're really focusing on getting everyone involved in the story and the history of Freedmen's Town. And so as far as events, so say if you want to like volunteer or go on a few of the tours or check out the exhibits like Cass was saying, definitely feel free to reach out to me about it. You can easily sign up on our website, but we have a lot of interesting things coming up for the next few months.
Yeah, and so I think this week you've had, let's see, coming up tomorrow, you have a book talk.
Yes, we have the Kobe talk, and we also have our porch talk coming up next week. Marty, which is like one of the artists from the exhibits, he's doing a tour tomorrow as well, which is really interesting. So yeah, a lot of interesting stuff.
Yeah, so definitely check out the website. If you haven't already been to the site, please do and sign up for the newsletter. It's on the home page. Also connect to us on Instagram because we post a lot of content and event announcements. And also just great, like, did you know history on that? You'll see all kinds of cool stuff with that too. Okay. So when we talk about just the historic preservation work, and I wanted to highlight the existing program that we're working on now, which is the Saulnier project, so right here in Saulnier Street. We're restoring 2 homes, 1609 and 1606 Saulnier Street. So these are 2 homes that were at risk of demolition. And part of the work of the Conservancy, collaborating with the Houston Endowment, the Kinder Foundation, a number of other institutes have actually gone in and had to purchase those homes off the private sellers at a very high value to save them so they can be renovated and turned into affordable housing. So our goal is to restore both these homes permanently and protect it in a land trust so that it can be affordable housing for long-term residents. And this is a great example of just like the hallmark programs that the Conservancy is looking to do across Fourth Ward. And everything from housing to retail centers, to mixed developments of all kinds. But as I was saying, preservation, maintenance, and adaptive reuse is the focus. So looking at the Sawyer project, focusing on being built by the ancestors and maintained and restored by the descendants, what we've achieved so far. We've raised over $554,000 for these two properties with donations from the Youth Equity Fund, HEB, a number of matching grants, corporate foundations and contributions, National Trust for Historic Preservation, and most importantly, individual contributions. Individual contributions are not insignificant. And a lot of times, as individual residents, constituents, we can often feel like, well, I don't have $50, $100,000 to give. It's literally thousands of people giving small amounts that make up a big portion of what we're doing. So what we need to go forward is we need to raise another $391,000 to continue the restoration of these homes. So the first portion was actually buying the homes. Of course, we had to pretty much scrape it from a developer that was going to knock it down and probably put some ultra-modern, high-rise. Nothing against that, but, we want to keep some character. And so the rest of the work is really about finishing up the interiors. So these are all different buckets that we are looking through grants, corporate donations, and individual contributions to help finish out these two homes. From interior repairs, insulation, sheetrock, trim, cabinetry, exterior, paint, stain, site administration, site and foundation work, cleanup and closeout, administrative, project management support, different kind of systems that are required in the space, plumbing, HVAC, electrical, utilities, to framing, roofing, brick materials, windows. And so the way we're going to get there's going to be a mix of both, financial fundraising, but also lots of different kinds of, in-kind support, donations from, real estate and property management and renovation companies, Home Depot and individual lumber yards, giving a lot of these materials. So if you know anyone that you think they might be interested in connecting with, with our work and supporting this, definitely stay connected with us. Okay, so easiest way to kind of get involved in any capacity. I'm Cassandra Iku. I'm the chair of the Freedmen's Town Advisory Council. Connect with us, connect with HoustonFreedmenstown.org. Just tell us what you're interested in, or you have a thought or an idea about how to get involved. You can reach out to us that way. So this is a really good, cool snapshot of just even some of the historic homes before they were renovated. Unfortunately, these 4 properties no longer exist, but this is what we're trying to save while they're still here. Currently, there are about 12 sites throughout 4th Ward here that we're looking to preserve and maintain. So after we close Sawyer project, that is not the end. We have much further to go. We're going to get there. Actually, just found this recently. It's really cool, Freedmenstown map that shows some of the great assets here. So I think that was actually a recent news publication. So we're starting to get the attention that's desired for this project, but we have a lot further to go. And I'm excited to have Daniel and Markita share a little bit just about the history of how Black communities and neighborhoods have actually used different tools in their arsenal to fundraise and build ourselves up. So Daniel, I know with you and our fundraising community, you probably have a few words that you want to share just about Sawyer and all of the go right ahead.
Well, I'm probably gonna echo a lot of things that Kat said, but the importance of Sawyer is because of the grasp, the tangibility of it, that it's something that we all grew up in the church where we saw that fundraising goal for 27 years. And it was something that we could grasp. It was an idea. We knew we were working towards something. So the idea of the ICC and ICC Sawyer is that can walk around the corner and see the houses in place. Once the family is in the household, you can now meet your new neighbors. It's not something that is out in the cloud. It's something that's real. It's the real feeling of changing the direction or the dynamic of a family's life that may not have had the opportunity to own a house. Now you are creating a generational wealth that normally would not have happened. And so that's real. And that is the true essence of Freedmen's Town, is that that hope for tomorrow, is that what we're doing today will permeate through the generations of tomorrow. So the Build by the Ancestors campaign is something that every single person that is watching, that is here, can get involved today. There's no amount that doesn't help towards the goal. So $5, $10. Corporate sponsorships are great, but folks who live in this neighborhood, who walk in this neighborhood, give what you can, because you're taking that dollar that you earn from somewhere and reinvesting it back into your community. So the faster we get to the goal, the better that corner will look. And so it's something that I think is very important for us to focus on now in a time of trying to grasp something. So if I'm trying to steer you towards somewhere, it's the Build by the Ancestors campaign, because, like I said, it's something that we can look towards now. So, did you want to talk about?
Well, I'm actually going to pass it on to Markita. Okay.
Perfect.
So now so we kind of wanted to establish like what the big goal is, or like where we're going. Now we're just going to talk about how we're going to do that. And Markita, she's been a long time volunteer with a long time here. Because believe it or not, the Visitor Center actually just opened in May last year. So we all drank the Kool-Aid and like fully obsessed. So I'm warning you, like this is your life now. Okay. Because it's just so, and it's not that often, particularly in just the news media, there's so much negativity, where you can really be a part of something that you can see improve on a daily, monthly basis. Like I was just driving in, coming in, I feel like at least 3 days a week. I turned the corner there for a minute, I was like, well, what's over here on Gregory School? And see all of this, construction and stuff like, so you're constantly as a resident going to be seeing that, but it's for the improvement of the community. So now we know where we're going, the goal, we're going to figure out how we're going to get there. And I think we need to take models of what we've done in the past that'll inform us of what we're going to do going forward. Okay. I had to practice this like 5 times. It's tricky. All right, I did, yeah. Thank you.
Welcome to all of you. My name is Markita Samuel. I am a project manager who's recovering. And I own my own project management firm called Making Straight Paths, and we focus on nonprofit consulting and support of what I consider purpose projects. So projects that have an impact, things that are important and interesting and diverse. And so I joined this organization under Cassandra and the advisory board to support historic preservation of African American historical sites. It's so important throughout our country that we continue to recognize the journey and, like she said, preserve what we've achieved, but then also figure out ways to pass it forward so that we can continue to stand on a legacy that is a beautiful legacy. So when Cassandra asked me to come and present, this was such in my wheelhouse because I'm a history undergrad major. So this gave me an opportunity to go dig in archives and pull up old pictures and all of that and have that kind of fun. But then also give us a platform to look forward. I think for me, as we were discussing in our political climate, there's so much conversation and misinformation that's going around about the impact and value of diversity. And so this is an opportunity to give a clearer narrative about what we've achieved and what we have yet to achieve as a people, independent of any government institution, and what we can do when we come together. So again, thank you to Sandra and the organization for giving me the opportunity to share and to do a little history research project. And so, philanthropy. One of the definitions, the Greek words, philos means love, and anthropos means man or humanity. And so normally you think about philanthropy as the role of wealth and the ability to donate large sums of money, which is not necessarily in conjunction with the definition of love of humanity. So those two things don't always gel, but that's what we think of. When you think of philanthropy, you think of someone with a lot of money, throwing it around, buying themselves a school or whatever, and preserving their legacy. But African Americans and Black people in this country have been the bedrock of philanthropy from the beginning. Even before we came, we had a very philanthropic origin, and that's what we're going to discuss today. And so I found this beautiful quote because I think, again, this kind of grounds us from Dr. Emmett Carson, and he's a leading scholar of Black philanthropy. And he says, one reason little has been written about Black philanthropy is that the word philanthropy evokes images of large foundations and wealthy philanthropists, as we just said, which are scarce in the Black community. When one expands the concept to include giving money, goods, and time, Blacks emerge as having a strong, substantial philanthropic tradition. And one of the things I love that Cassandra said earlier was, again, even with the current project, the individual giving was almost half of what we have achieved, because again, individuals are what makes philanthropy. But when you distill it down to one person, one billionaire, one millionaire doing something, then you overlook this rich history. And so all of the pictures I'm going to show you are of different philanthropists. The first one was of the Cotton family. If you go back, this is the Cotton family. They owned a barbershop and some other small businesses in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And again, this is an example of giving. So from the Black business, they were able to be a hub to the community and share, right? This photo here, that's in the background, is of the California Conference of Churches group. So again, churches that we discussed earlier, the bedrock of philanthropy in the Black community. And so we have a rich legacy, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So, pre-colonial Africa, we have to go all the way back, because again, as we know, everyone in this room knows, the history of African Americans predates enslavement, right? And so our culture and our history predates our stepping foot on the continent of the United States, or the continent of America, or any European continent. We had our own traditions, our own values, our own languages, our own cultures, and they came with us. We didn't lose them. And so the tradition of giving, caring, and sharing were a large part of West African cultures and survived into the present day. And so the susu, or Yoruba term isusu, which has many different terms, many different definitions, right? Some people call it susu. I'm Caribbean American, and so we call it bata. And so then, I think Haitians call it soul. Some people call it merry-go-round. There's so many different ways to call this concept of collective giving. So for those who do not know, Susu is collective community-based savings fund. And so the history of Susu traces back to West Africa, where community saving groups allow people to pool their resources for collective benefit. This is often used by immigrants and other communities where access and trust in formal banking institutions may be limited. And we know that's an issue in African American communities as well. Sometimes the trust in these institutions is low versus the trust amongst your people and your peers. And so what happens is each member contributes a certain amount. It's all agreed upon, right? So everyone's giving 100. If there's 5 of us, or all of us in this room, we give 100. And then this week is Cassandra's payout, so she gets all of our money. And then next week it goes, and then next week it goes. And so we each get a payout, and we just continue to pay into it. And the beauty is, maybe she uses that to buy a car, maybe she uses that to, put a down payment on a house, or maybe a wedding, or just whatever, a vacation. It's just a way to intentionally save with people that you trust, and you can take care of the community needs. And so this is something that has survived that horrible middle passage, and all the other the experiences that African American included, Caribbean American and other groups had and still exist today. And so that speaks to the power of community. And I'm gonna talk about that more in the next slide. And so now we get into enslavement. And we know that's not a great part of history, but it's a part of the history here. And this is a drawing of William Still, and I'll talk about him a little bit in 1 minute. And so as African Americans traveled across the Atlantic as part of the slave trade and were transplanted into southern plantations, they became a part of the family and communal structures within those plantations. And as their families were dispersed to many different plantations around them, they became families. So as we know, the family unit was broken up, but then you made family with those around you. And then we continued those family traits, traditions of taking care of each other, of looking after each other. And so that is one of the things that happened during enslavement. And this carried into the thought of taking care of any person that looked like you and had your shared experience. And so one of those taking care of initiatives was the Underground Railroad, as we know. And so William Still is a big part of the Underground Railroad. He is considered the father of the Underground Railroad. He was born in 1821, grew up in New Jersey, youngest of 18 children, which I just cannot fathom today. And his parents were once enslaved. He came to Philadelphia with nothing, taught himself to read and write, and secured a job at the Pennsylvania Anti-Slavery Society. So I don't know if many of you know him, but whenever they talk about Harriet Tubman, they have to bring up William Still, because this is where she stopped when she got over. I remember that story. When she finally got over, she stopped and he took her record, right? He took her narrative of what was going on and her background and whatever. This is the thing, it's William Still, right? And so his role was to ensure that fugitives moved through Philadelphia as safely and efficiently as possible. This meant coordinating with allies outside the city, sometime nearby, even as far as Norfolk, Virginia. He made sure that fugitives, when they arrived in the city, they were met at the docks or the train stations and guided to a safe place to stay, often his home. And then he made sure that they had food, they took a bath, they had a haircut. All of that is philanthropic efforts. Again, as I said in the previous definition, it doesn't mean that he has to be a millionaire to be recognized. When you think about all those individual people that he touched, he saved over, well, he helped transport over 800 enslaved people. His records are over 1,000 plus enslaved people. So if you multiply that, that is a big donor. But again, do they recognize him in the history book? When you think of philanthropist, does his name come up? And so, at all of this cost, he was responsible for raising money and making sure the money was accounted for. And one of the things about William Still that's so amazing is he kept such detailed records, and he published a book after the Civil War, and that's why we know a lot of what he did. But everything wasn't there, so there's even more that wasn't recorded, but again, we can see what he did and the impact of that money. And then later in life, he established different organizations and was recognized for that as well. Water. So I'm struggling through. And so then, after enslavement, we get to the Civil War. And after the Civil War, we have emancipation, right? Hallelujah. End of that. And so we have this time period of emancipation and reconstruction. And so immediately, true deacon board. Yes. I was like, this is a good one. Yeah.
You can identify the personalities just.
Yeah. It's the same thing, right? This is the Subcommittee of Management and the Council of the Grand United Order of Odd Fellows, the full title, right? From 1907, okay? And why I highlighted it is the Grand United Order of Odd Fellows was a mutual aid and social club founded in 1843 for African Americans who were denied other opportunities. So again, that's predating emancipation. And I wanted to highlight that because again, there's sometimes these blocks of history like, well, we didn't do anything until after emancipation, not true. And that's why I wanted to show you William Still and others. This group was existing and existed for a long time, actually. I just pulled this photo from 1907. And so, as Cassandra said, immediately after emancipation, and then depending on where you were, or Juneteenth, African Americans exploded. They went all across the country and they did what they could to pick themselves up, reunite with their families, and take care of themselves. And so they were the creation of mutual aid funds, fraternal orders, voluntary organizations, a lot of HBCUs, orphanages, old folks homes, schools, mutual aid groups, and people pulling together and working together on the issues of survival. And so, for example, as we read this stuff that the graph is standing on, is an example of what formerly enslaved people did after emancipation, right? Juneteenth, June 19th, 1865, right? Formerly enslaved people came to this area and started to work on what we have now as Freedmen town. As Cassandra already said in the intro, they constructed homes, schools, businesses, church. They built this beautiful area that we're living in, and they prospered. It said by 1880, we had 95% of Black Estonians living in this area, and by 1930, there produced over 400 Black-owned businesses. And these are things to note because, again, sometimes we're so removed from that history, but this is literally what people did. This is literally the movement that African Americans did to take care of themselves after they were formerly enslaved, right? And so, why I wanted to highlight this section of history is, again, the clarity of there was action before emancipation, and then there was more action after emancipation. We just continued, and we continue to build from there. All right, and then the next slide, Jim Crow and the Great Migration. And so this is a picture of Scott and Violet Arthur, who arrived with their family at Chicago's Polk Street Depot on August 30th, 1920, 2 months after their sons were lynched in Paris, Texas. And this has become an iconic picture of the Great Migration. And why I wanted to highlight this time in history is the oppression under Jim Crow and the movement, literally, that creates the Great Migration, forced African Americans to be more intentional too about the work. Although they were formerly enslaved and they were a little bit more removed from that experience, they still had a collective suffering that forced them to pool their resources and try to support each other through all these changes. So this is where we're going to talk more about the church, and we talked about that a little bit earlier, but from the beginning of African slavery in America, the church has been the most powerful institution of racial self-help in the African American community. In fact, in the most difficult years of discrimination and violence against Blacks in the South from 1880 to 1920, African Americans turned to themselves to educate the masses of their people, care for the needy, facilitate economic development, and address political concerns, largely through their churches. And so again, although we have highlighted earlier some individuals, the institutions are where we're going to start to focus more as we progress, because people would go from Baptist A&E to Baptist A&E and they would take care of the community there, right? During this time, the Supreme Court announced a separate but equal status for Blacks, which further emphasized the requirement of separate philanthropic vehicles to meet the needs of African American people. One such vehicle was one of my favorite ideas, is a rent party. Has anyone ever heard of a rent party? Yeah. Okay. And so when I learned about these rent parties, we saw a documentary or a house party, right? It is an innovative social occasion where tenants hire a musician or band to play and pass a hat to raise money to pay their rent. Originating in Harlem in the 1920s, these parties were a means for Black tenants to eat, dance, and get away from everyday hardships and discrimination, and they played a major role in the development of jazz, blues, and swing dance. And so sometimes, again, philanthropic efforts are not always such a large thing. It could just be something as simple as paying your rent. But look how innovative and creative and dynamic African Americans were in that effort, right? And then some of the beautiful music and jazz and dance came out of something as a philanthropic effort. Passing the hat around, passing the plate around, and making sure everyone has their rent paid in this discriminatory America, right? And so next we get to the civil rights movement. So this is where a lot of people know of African American philanthropic efforts, but as you saw, we started way before this, right? So this is a picture of Georgia Gilmore. Anyone ever heard of Georgia Gilmore? Okay, she's rolling, and she's rolling her hands in dough. You can't see her hands right now. She was monumental in the civil rights movement. And so, as we know, churches and organizations led the movement. For example, we know Southern Christian Leadership Conference, led by MLK. We got the Black Panthers, Congress of Racial Equality Corps, they led the nation's first sit-in 1942, NAACP, SNCC, right, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. So those are all organizations that we know of that led. But Georgia here was one woman, right? And so, although the civil rights movement was led by churches and fraternal organizations, it was very dependent on people volunteering to drive each other because of the boycotts, people who took care of the marchers, and people who raised the bail money to retrieve those that were in prison, right? Individual philanthropic efforts. You don't see their names in the history book, you don't even know who they are. But Georgia has a good story. And so Georgia Gilmore came into the limelight after Rosa Parks was arrested and refusing to leave her seat, December 1st, 1955. A group of church leaders and civic leaders and ministers formed the Montgomery Improvement Association to help guide the boycott, right? So they had a group, and again, like I said, associations, organizations, they were very popular. And Gilmore, who already refused to use the bus because of discrimination, heard of the arrest, and with her friends started a fundraising group called the Club from Nowhere. So anonymity was baked into the beginning. The organization helped support the operations of the boycott and the MIA. The money from the sales went towards helping the Montgomery Improvement Association to sustain the carpool system, a backbone of MIA strategy to sustain the boycott. So again, this is Rosa Parks, this is the bus boycott, no one's riding the bus, but we gotta still go to work. We still gotta pay these bills. How are we gonna do it? Who's paying for people to put gas in their cars? How is this working? Georgia. Georgia dubbed her group the Club from Nowhere to ensure the anonymity of the members as well as contributors, some of which were white. In an effort to avoid any conflict, Georgia established herself as the only officer of the Club of Nowhere. Members gave her all of the money they made, and she donated the money to the MIA, the weekly mass meetings. The club soon began raising hundreds of dollars a week by selling their meals out of beauty parlors, laundromats, and other locations frequented by both boycotters and supporters of the movement. And they would present their weekly gains at the meetings to the applause of the audience. Gilmore hoped that the success of the group had encouraged other ordinary folks to do the same. This organization and others like it are cited by some as what kept the boycott alive by providing money as well as grassroots support within the community. Georgia and MLK were very close. He went to her restaurant. She was actually employed by an organization. They fired her when she started becoming more popular and standing up against the boycott. And MLK helped her establish a small local restaurant, and he would come there frequently. And so I wanted to highlight Georgia as an example of, again, the earlier definition. Philanthropic efforts are the individual people. It's not always these large institutions, but we've been doing this from the beginning. And we continue to do it. Georgia reminds me of every church fish fry, every church repast, right? There's always a Georgia that's putting together the plates, making sure members are taken care of, and making sure that the philanthropic efforts of the community are met, right? The philanthropic needs of the community are met. And so next, almost done. I'm sure everyone knows who this one is, right? Any guesses? Okay, all right. So getting into the modern, when the pictures turn into color, we get it, right? And so again, for everyone, this is Robert F. Smith during the Morehouse College class of 2019 alumni, commencement. This is his commencement picture, he was speaking. And so the church is still a bedrock institution of philanthropic families. It's a place where, again, philanthropic values are taught and practiced on a regular basis. And as an institution responsible to the needs of the community, people pay their tithes and their offerings, and that money, energy, and talent is frequently redistributed into the community to support education, support grant, and support programming. And I wanted to make that note because the church was established earlier and it continues as a bedrock. But of course, in the modern day, there's other institutions, but I didn't want to neglect that. That centralized role of the church is still very important in Black philanthropy and will continue to be so because it's a meeting place, it's a common place where we all know and connect. And we're taught philanthropic values. And the next slide is going to emphasize that more, but I just want to highlight here that African Americans are taught philanthropic values from that community center called the church. Tithe and offering is something you just know to give, and you know the church is going to do something for the community. and that's a big piece of why we have such a rich history of philanthropy. And so, again, historic Black colleges and universities, Greek organizations, giving circles are what's in the modern day philanthropic efforts of African Americans. So a lot of people know if you don't do anything else, you're gonna give to your Greek organization. If you don't do anything else, you're gonna give to HBCU or maybe a local Black school or program. And so we have that level, but now also African Americans are starting to introduce giving circles. It's a step up from SUSU because it's a little bit broader and there's no buyout, right? But it's still this concept of me and my friends, we're gonna give towards something. We're gonna focus on a need and we're gonna put the money there. And in Texas, we have the Village Giving Circle and Heritage Giving Fund, and I think those are both in North Texas and they're ran by women, but they're very reputable giving circles that have been highlighted nationally for their success. Because again, Black people give and they give a lot, right? Donor advised funds. This is something Cassandra talks about a lot. A donor advised fund is a charitable investment account that is set up for the sole purpose of supporting charities. African Americans are starting to set these up as well. African American organizations are starting to set these up. And so we're shifting from anonymity to more of the spotlight, but that small charitable giving is still here. And it's community based, right? We have foundations, and then we have our high network individuals. And I want to highlight that because although maybe traditionally we didn't have those people, we have them and we have a lot more now, and they're giving largely, right? And so for example, Madam C.J. Walker is a very notable high net worth philanthropist. We have Oprah Winfrey, Tom Joyner. Tom Joyner has given out millions and millions of dollars for scholarships in college through his foundation, through his radio show, right, through the cruise. And so I have Robert up here because I feel like he encapsulates all of them. Some of our previous high net worth givers were a little quiet, they were nice about it, they did their thing. But I feel like when he did this, it kind of like dropped the mic. And I feel like some people copied after him, to be honest. He set a really good trend, and I just loved it. And so what he says is close to 51% of Black students use the student loan borrowing process to pay for their college education. And on average, Black college graduates owe 118% more in student loan debt than their white counterparts 4 years after graduation. So let me repeat it, because this is his reasoning for why he gave. Close to 51% of Black students use the student loan borrowing process. So we know a certain amount are borrowing loans. But after 4 years after graduation, Black college graduates owe, on average, 188% more in student loans. So a chunk of us have to get it, and when we come out, there's all this bondage. So when he did this, it was statistically based. It wasn't just to be showing off, it wasn't just to be doing something. It was amazing, but there was a reason. And so what he was saying is, for those who don't know, during the 2019 Morehouse College graduation ceremony, he pledged to pay off the student loan debt that each student at that graduation had received. So there was 400 students at the commencement, and he decided to pay off all of their debt. And then somehow there was a conversation, and he decided to pay off the debt of their guardians as well. Because I'm sure someone's mom was like, wait, I co-signed from someone. Well, look, Robert, what can you do? And he decided to pay it. He decided to pay it.
Plus loans are no joke. Right?
$34 million. His gift was $34 million, and he did it. And I just love this as an example of where we are going as Black philanthropists, the bar that is being set, and the way that he did it. He wasn't shy about it. He didn't hide away. He had all the news cameras there to make sure it was documented, and he paid that debt, and he's doing more. He's doing more. And so one of the reasons that he said he did it was to equip the graduates with the means to pursue business and financial opportunities that they might not have had if they continue to hold student debt. And we know that's a big issue. And so again, if African Americans are free of that debt burden, they can then continue to give and do the things in the community that we need to do. And so that was one of the reasons why he wanted to do it. And he's a big proponent of closing the racial wealth gap due to student debt. And so other things that we have in our modern day are Black Philanthropy Month, which is August. That was started by the Pan-African Women's Philanthropy Network, and it was started in 2011. And then we also have this other effort called, created by the Young Black and Giving Black Institute, Young Black and Giving Black Institute, and they created Black Giving Day, which is called Give 828, and that focuses on Black nonprofits. And so I'm saying now, you have a variety of ways to do it. You have a giving circle, you can still do susu, you have your church, you can do a big thing, you can do a small thing, but there's so many different ways to do it, and it's more acknowledged and celebrated than it was before. I think it's a great time to participate in giving. And so here is one of the closing quotes here. Nearly 2/3 of African American households donate to organizations and causes to the tune of 11 billion each year. So we're starting to pull the receipts, and I just want that number to sit. African Americans give, and we give largely, 11 billion a year. That is major. That is something to know. Charitable giving by African Americans is increasing at a faster rate than either their aggregate income or aggregate wealth. Meaning we might not have it, but somehow we're giving, right? On average, African American households give away 25% or more of their income per year than whites. And this does not even account for the ample contributions of time, know-how that is being poured back into the community codes, which cannot be monetized, but are often more valuable than dollars. This was put into the report by the Kellogg Foundation, and I just appreciate that we're in a place now where those things are being noted and recognized. Because again, helping your friend start her nonprofit, that's giving, that's philanthropy. Coming to an organization and putting a donation, that's giving, that's philanthropy. Those things count. Of course, we want you to do larger and more, but at the end of the day, acknowledging your contribution of time and expertise is what African Americans have done from the very beginning and will continue to do. And so I just wanted to close with all the changes in our world, community is more vital than effort. Shared values, shared perspective, and shared resources are the only path forward. Black philanthropy existed because of a shared perspective of value within the community and of the challenges to the community. We all understand the challenges that are going on. And so we must return to the model of we instead of me. And so I wanted to open the floor. If there are any questions about any of the slides or any of the information I shared, or anything that you wanted to share based off some of the people that I highlighted here today.
Hi everybody, I'm T. I just wanted to share that I actually included the Robert F. Smith student loan debt relief for the Morehouse class of 2019. One of my closest friends actually just finished his MFA at NYU and did his thesis documentary on that because he was one of the students from that class. And so he took that project, and it's funny that we talk about philanthropic giving and in terms of Black arts. He's funding that film based mostly on online fundraisers. So if you go to the give 1867.com, that's the website, and so you can see like a clip of the film, and also like see the donation links. But yeah, he puts up regular fundraisers online and has been able to do the whole project through back channel giving and like online fundraising. So
Perfect example. So like we were discussing, he was able to do this because it wasn't burdened by this debt. Wasn't burdened by this, now what am I gonna do? I gotta pay all these bills. But even if he was burdened, like we saw in the last statistic, he still would have gave, because that's what we do. That's what African Americans do, that's what we historically have done. And so I just wanted to end with a challenge to just find more ways to give money, give goods, give time, because you are all philanthropists. You're all philanthropists, and we all can continue to do more. And I want to make sure that you recognize that as I highlight all those other people, I highlight each and every one of you who have given your time, your expertise, and efforts into where we are moving as a people and moving forward. Any other questions? Any other comments?
Okay, so we have maybe about 15 minutes left. I would like for us to get together in groups of 3 and do a little brainstorming around giving. As Markita shared, our philanthropic efforts are a mix of different things. So if we can kind of put groups of 3 together, and let's think of a crazy, wild idea that you can do yourself, or you're thinking, I wanna ask somebody else in my family, my friend group, my community, that they can do that comprises an activity that could be about using their social capital with their network, their expertise, if they have a certain profession, or just they're really good at something, and financial contribution. Small, something that anybody can do. So we're just gonna kind of cluster in groups of 3, so I'll give you a quick idea. So my unique talent is I can go parties. I come from a long line of bootleggers and rap rousers, so I can go to parties. That's what I do. So, since Markita was sharing a lot of history, way back in West Virginia, that's what I was doing. So I'm like, okay, when Freedmen the Richmond first opened in May last year, I'm like, I'm gonna throw a house party. Okay, and I told a bunch of people through text, email, what else, this come up, we're going to this housewarming party at Freedmen's. Little did I know that donations would just start coming in. It literally became a rent party. That one night, we raised like $2,500.
Wow, that's amazing.
And I was just using like social capital, expertise. I wanted something that was like fun and exciting, but also like everybody could come through to, and that's how we got it done. So you can use that as an example, or use some of the examples that Markita came up with, and we can kind of just talk, amongst our groups about how we can kind of use that mix of like who we know, what we know, and ways that we can kind of grow some financial giving as well. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of mix everybody up. So I'm gonna put you 2 together. So let's kind of just cluster around the table. So I'll put you 2 and Markita, Monet, and these 2 beautiful ladies here. Let's kind of put some ideas together. And Keisha, Daniel, and
I'm multitasking.
multitasking. We can all kind of jump over here and kind of put some ideas together. It's hard. I'm gonna jump in here. Okay. So y'all think in your multitasking, you're clearly very happy.
Maybe for Robert Smith, that's also right. So that's why Robert Smith.
And we would do
So.
I feel like there are so many options, but.
So.
Right.
And then
Basically,
like really gets me going.
Right.
Every time you sign up for
Right.
so you're not paying for the application. Donating to it. And the donation will take 20% in that. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. We all know like so I am trying to do.
What profession are you in?
I work by engineering.
Okay.
And when you said that, especially,
Yeah.
you know, like one of the things that I didn't want to be too much, you know, be here all night. So.
Daily one day. So you. They just want that round one. They just want that round one. And sure, that's it. Right. So they don't have to. Yeah. I don't know right. So you just found out that there's CPS. So the whole time that yeah, no, you're not right. Oh, right, exactly. So it's it does get interesting. Oh, yeah, you're Georgia was although she was here to the phone, especially I was mad.
Okay, so I made you a friend tonight. This is Ricky. And we were putting some ideas together about how do we like to have fun? How do we like hang out with our friends? How to socialize and ways that we could maybe come up with like a cool fundraiser for the Conservancy. So Ricky loves sports. He loves games of all kinds. But he's really into pickleball. Okay. So Rick, tell me, how do you play pickleball? How many people do you need to play? Okay, 4 people for pick. So 4 people play together. And pickleball is like tennis. People can't play tennis like me. Okay, so I can play. I don't need no training. I don't have to like be in a Serena Williams boot camp. I can just go play. All right. And you know your idea was you have to pay to get into the game. Well, you tell me. I'm a listener.
So you have to pay to get in 5. So 4 players, 5. That's how much you have to pay.
Okay, so 4 players, $5. Okay.
And the round either goes for 5 or 2 minutes.
Okay.
And the first person who gets to maybe like 45, like tennis.
Okay.
You should at 15 go to 30. And 5
Okay.
But for pickleball, it's the same thing. But you can either go, if you pay, if you want to pick your own sport to go to, you just gotta pay extra.
Okay, so you can pay to play. All right. Now you said that, because you were asking people like, well, do you bring your own rackets or something? Or you can buy rackets, or you had a price for that too?
You can either rent rackets or buy, or you can buy a whole set.
Does it come with like the paddle and the?
Oh, yeah, the fits, the paddle, a case for the paddle, and a $40.
Okay. And do you have to be on a pickleball court, or can you be pickleball at home in your backyard?
Yes, you have to have a
Okay.
It has to be concrete.
Okay. So it's funny, we need a big place that has concrete that we could play pickleball. Oh no, that's a giant parking lot.
It's like the time that like this here, just take out chairs.
Okay. Well, we can play pickleball inside?
You gotta be
We're
careful.
not gonna bring it. Mama, is he allowed to play pickleball inside? No. But we'll find someplace there that has a big window. But let's start outside, okay? So you have 4 players, you each play $5 to do like a 2-minute round, okay, so that's easy. And we could, rent our rackets, how much you gonna rent the rackets for?
7 to 5.
Okay.
Just to see which kind of you want, because there's pro level.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, okay.
There's like hard and it's wood.
Okay, so you got different types. Okay.
And most of the time, either you want soft or heavy. Well, light or heavy.
Mm,
But for me, I'm heavy-handed, but I like lightness.
okay.
So when I wrap the ball, it'll go farther instead of going forward. Not that far.
Okay. Do you have to pay to get the ball too?
The ball
Okay.
comes with it.
Okay, so that's included. Right. Okay, you want it just a little bit, okay. Very cool, high five, I love this. Yeah. Alright. So that was a really good example of like an easy community, family, friend-based fundraiser that we can do. I love that. So thank you, Ricky, our new director of fundraising. Anybody else, I'm just really curious if it's like kind of what you shared, if you had any ideas, you know, this is an opportunity to just have fun and just share anything that you came up with. Anybody else have something you want to share? Yeah, go ahead.
So we all kind of had an idea of creating an application, an app, to where you deduct from your paycheck. And so a certain percentage comes from your paycheck, and it goes to the app, and the app is a big bowl of money. And then each investor gets to vote on, so the site administrator will put 5 projects of nonprofit groups, whatever. And so at the end of the month, you get to vote on which project that dollar goes to. And so also it's the investment financial. It can be, you can invest time, your professional ability, you do applications, whatever it may be, you invest into the app. So that makes you a voting member. And so each month you just you put up 5 nonprofit groups or projects that you want to invest in, and it goes towards them.
I love that. So that's a great example of how you can scale giving. You know, because here's the thing, like nonprofit is not non-business. You know, we use the same principles of designing a business plan, thinking about our community and what they're interested in, and making it easy and accessible for them to participate. That's really good because that also does a lot of things too. We didn't get a chance to touch on is that with our giving efforts, there also to be a lot of opportunities for collaboration between organizations. Here in Freedmanstown, the Conservancy, we are a 501c3 nonprofit, but we are just one of over 30 organizations that are here in Freedmanstown. And the reason why these assets still exist is because of the long history of work that they've been doing to protect what's here, with very humble means, with not a lot of time, with like approaching development and not always friendly like local leadership to support them. So part of our work, in addition to like our preservation and restorative efforts, is also helping to integrate those groups so that we can have greater impact. I think that would be a really awesome.
You can call it I Got 5 on it.
I got 5 on it. Yeah, I like that. Okay. Anybody else want to share?
We didn't talk about ideas as much as just empowering each other to take action. And so we were talking about volunteering and just coming around more, starting small with your neighbors and sharing the word of what you're doing and how to participate. And then again, I was telling them, I mentioned Madam C.J. Walker because one of the things about her biography, there's a biography now about her and her philanthropic efforts. And one of the things that I loved the biographer said was she gave throughout her life. And so sometimes you always wait until the end to do a big old Robert F. Smith situation. And he was like, no, her whole journey, she always stopped and gave money. And so I was just saying that I'm hoping to continue to do that at my current 100-year status and my 1,000-year status and my 100,000-year status before I get to my millionaire, future status. So just give where you are and continue to support because that's what it's all about. And it will work and to make this big old thing. So we just talked about how to keep going.
I love it. All right, how about our last group here? Any interesting ideas or just thoughts about what we want?
Yeah, we talked about like having like a community kickball tournament, so that's what.
Okay.
Very much.
Yeah.
And then I also shared with the Foundation from Atlanta, and I was part of a group, like a community co-op situation. We had a lot of co-ops within large co-op, and we started a time bank.
What's that?
So basically, all the members opt in, say like I have X amount of time per week. You say what skills you have. So like somebody's a cook, somebody's a massage therapist, somebody has kids. Like you exchange time. So I'll give you childcare for maybe a week's worth of meal prep, and then I'll give you a free massage for childcare, that sort of thing. And when we had things like rent parties or like water parties or whatever, one of the co-op houses or for somebody else in the community, you knew people with skills, with time, who could be on site. So it was a place to both like raise money, but then also like get to know one another and like get community off of money, solely as a means and free up funds for like true emergency situations.
Yeah.
Just, trading your time.
Time bank.
Yeah.
That is amazing. That is amazing. So that is a really great,
Yes.
way to structure social capital and expertise. And that's what I'm saying, like money doesn't solve all the problems. It's really our social capital and expertise plus our financial capital. Money is important because it's a highly transformative and flexible tool, but it can't get into all the crannies and do everything. You can't buy your way out of everything. Not at all. It just helps you to get materials, help you to pay for things like the lights, the slide decks, the different things like that. But the real work is what you're talking about that even enables you to even develop those like kind of financial giving campaigns that comes forward. Well, I am super excited about all the ideas that were presented today. Daniel, go ahead.
I just got one more thing. All these ideas are just like on point. And I just want to encourage, I think I say this every time I get in front of a group, it's like a cautionary tale is, are you perpetuating a broken system? I think we've got an opportunity to reinvent what we think is progress. I think from all of this chaos, historically speaking, you've always had an opportunity to create something new. And marginalized neighborhoods and communities have always been the ones that have kind of got the downslope of everything and we've been forgotten about. So I'll just say, while the cat's away, just play. Because they really are expecting us not to make it through this. So we have an opportunity to really, really be at the forefront of innovation because we're such in chaos that no one expects us to create in this moment. So take this opportunity to really, really look at your own systems. Are you fighting hard just to perpetuate the system that you just got out of? Because nobody wants to do that shit.
Yeah, and there's a lot of a lot of effort to kind of drive us away from each other as neighbors, as co-workers, as citizens. The story, the history that Markita shared was specifically about Black philanthropy, and it's important that we talk about that because we are focused on preserving a unique Black history. But our society and culture is very different now. We are an integrated society, and even throughout our history, we have always had not just allies, but co-conspirators of all stripes and all persuasions. And so here in Freedmentown, we are in a very much mixed and integrated community, and it's been really wonderful and inspiring to see a lot of new residents from a variety of backgrounds curious about the history here. I had a new resident that Joseph Panzarella. He's going to be he's the head of our new super neighborhood council, super neighborhood organization, and the super neighborhood is really designed for residents. Moved into the city, into Freedmentown maybe about 2 years ago and just bought a home. And was always curious about the aging structures here and just through his own volition just started digging in, like these look important, these look significant, and just started asking questions. Not from Freedmentown, not a generational resident, like many of us here today. And so if you're ever curious, just go with that. I mean, I'm sure there's one of you all kind of things here today. So just thank you all for that. Before we head out, please connect with each other, but more importantly, connect with us at Freedmentown. So if you haven't had a chance to sign in, please do. If you sign in, I'll have your email, or we can add you to the Freedmentown newsletter, so you can see all the updates about programs and fun things like that.
And if you wanna get in touch with us here with the Conservancy, I'm a volunteer, so I will be setting up a time date, right, like many of you. You can connect with us at connect@HoustonFreedmenTown.org. So share your ideas, ask questions. I just saw a random article, and what do you think about this? We check that faithfully every day. That's a good way to connect with myself, Daniel, and Markita, who are the volunteers. So thank you all so much for coming out on this super cold Houston night. And there we go, thank you. Yes, go right ahead. Yeah, so, also I wanna say, if you sign in, I will share the presentation from Markita as well.
Perfect.